Hello, everyone. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. Welcome to The Takeout. He reached down from on high and took hold of me. He drew me out of deep waters. That's from the book of Samuel, chapter 22, verse 17. That chapter of the Old Testament speaks to metaphorical enemies that arrive as waves of death, torrents of destruction. But also it speaks of divine rescue, the lamp of the Lord illuminating darkness. All of this applies to Central Texas communities still, a week later, struggling to make sense of the scale of destruction and death wrought by near-biblical floods that killed at least 121 and has left 170 missing and feared dead. President Trump arrived there today to survey the wreckage and thank first responders and volunteers assisting those who have lost so much. The president won't be able to see all of it because the tableau of mayhem stretches for miles. Mangled trees, overswept RVs, crumpled cabins, strewn like muddy confetti along the banks of the Guadalupe River. The center of this destruction, Kerr County, has suffered most. 96 fatalities and 161 missing from that county alone. Kerr County is, happily and pridefully, a place of quaint and deeply religious Americana where, as the Texas Tribune observed, church congregations outnumber grocery stores, and young children commonly recite Bible verses from memory. A place where Samuel, chapter 22, might resonate powerfully now. We're being drawn out of deep waters of grief and disbelief is sorely needed. We begin tonight with Olivia Rinaldi, who's traveling with the president. Olivia, what did you, traveling with the president and the president, see today?
Major, first, that Bible verse really strikes home because it is remarkably devastating here on the ground. You can see debris in trees up to 20, 30 feet high. That's partially what President Trump saw here today. Just a short little ways down this road. He was at Louise Hayes Park. We toured Kerrville yesterday and saw similar damage, just trees that are entirely uprooted but wrapped with debris of houses, cars, playgrounds, beach towels, just unimaginable, artifacts from homes that have been destroyed. Behind me here, you see the memorial for the 121 who have died in these floods. And you can also see, I believe he's right there, Governor Greg Abbott of Texas just arrived to comfort people who have been here all day singing those church hymns, talking about their loved ones, petting some of the emotional support dogs who have been here on the ground. Today, it was humming a little bit more today in Kerrville as people were waiting for President Trump to arrive on the ground as the comforter-in-chief today, and that's what he did. He said he met with some of the parents who lost their children at those campgrounds just a short ways away from here. This is kind of the big metropolitan hub for the Guadalupe River. It's here and Hunt, Texas, where they have seen the most devastation.
And Olivia, to what degree has the president talked about the role the federal government will play in this disaster going forward?
He's been mum on what it looks like going forward, choosing to really look back. He's been giving a lot of praise to Secretary Noem. He's been praising FEMA. But the question in all of this is what actually happens to FEMA? We know the president has said he wants it to be dismantled, to look different, and they want these federal disasters to not be handled at a federal level, but to be handled by states. The question there being, though, these state budgets, even in the state as big as Texas, can't handle these disasters by themselves. Millions and millions of dollars are needed to rebuild this area. And just to give you a sense of how large the devastation was, Major, 27 miles away, driving to get here, you could see devastations in a different county. So it's not just localized to one area. These federal disasters that rise to the federal level are often large and sweeping. So there is going to be a larger response needed, and sometimes they take not months, but years. The president today said he pledged to be with Texas through the end and to get them what they need, including what could potentially be more of a siren system to let people know in the future whether or not there are flash floods happening, whether or not they're in danger of being swept away in a flood. But the president saying he intends to keep working with Texas Governor Greg Abbott through all of this.
Specifics and dollar amounts yet to come from the president and the federal government. Olivia Rinaldi on the scene for us. Thank you so very much. Alejandro Serrano joins me now. He is a politics reporter for the Texas Tribune. I'm so glad you're with us. As I understand it, Alejandro, you also covered the mass shooting in Uvalde. So you have been witness to state responses to catastrophes. Is there any comparison, anything you find similar in either the responses or lack of responses thus far?
Thank you for having me. I think both situations are very different, but I think one of the big things right now is the number of questions that remain unanswered. Especially with Kerrville, my colleagues have been on the ground all week just trying to piece together the timeline of events. When did warnings go out? Which elected officials, which government officials knew what information at what point, and then what did they do with that information before sun rose July 4th and the scope of the devastation kind of came into picture.
And Alejandro, for my audience's benefit, what would you say is the ratio of questions to comprehensive answers from those who've been asked to provide that kind of basic timeline information?
Well, I think right now the questions far outnumber the answers. Local officials have said that their priority is finding people. We must remember that more than 100 people have already been confirmed dead and more than 150 people remain missing. Today marks a week. That is a remarkable number of humans that we're talking about. So officials have said that's their priority. At the federal level, we have seen, a defense of the idea to scale back FEMA, repurpose it, also defense of cuts to the National Weather Service. Just minutes ago, President Trump was in Kerrville, and he again defended the response and said that it was quick and it was appropriate and it was great, but also that the devastation was unlike anything he's ever seen.
There's going to be a special session of the Texas legislature to address this. What's on the agenda? What might Texans expect to come from it?
Yes, there's going to be an investigation of sorts, similar to, you mentioned the mass shooting in Uvalde. That also, the legislature also did that, and the governor has directed lawmakers to look into a couple of different things. One being, whether emergency communication systems need to be in place, and also looking at the state's flood warning system. This is an area that is prone to floods, and that's kind of one of the key questions: is how did this happen in an area that almost expects floods?
Alejandro Serrano of the Texas Tribune, I appreciate your time very much. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.